VCR. What's your favorite scary movie?
Hello out there in uncensored horror land, all you fanatics of all things freaky. Welcome from our small town childhood trauma to yours, because we are diving deep this week. We're doing something that I didn't expect. I had it in the back of my mind that we would do this one day, but it kind of just moved forward quite rapidly. But before we get started, you will notice a fresh face with us today. Mr. Kenny Legs, say hi to the people at home. How are you?
Hello, folks. Kenny Legs here. Nice
Kenny
to meet
Legs, Mr. Legumes. Now, where have we pulled you from? If you wanted to let the folks know.
Louisiana.
There we go.
Right, born and raised.
Born and raised.
Oh, yep.
So Kenny has come from the universe of the PlayStation Network with myself and Luke to join us for a little exhibition back to the 90s. Look, I will not apologize. I will just say that our proposed Nightmare on Elm Street series has taken just a little bit of a backseat. We were going to jump into Nightmare, but Nightmare's pretty stagnant at the moment. There's no new news. There's no anything happening, and we usually like to keep with the zeitgeist. This property, there is something happening. There is a television series prequel headed our way. So one night in the middle of the night.
Can I just say, Steve?
Yeah.
Just more importantly, when the titles are updated, if Kenny decides to stick around, he would be the perfect Pennywise in that opening.
I object to this. I object to this wholeheartedly. I will leave the show. I'm gone.
Why is that? Too much testosterone?
Yeah. She loves it.
No, I love the testosterone. Gay, straight, whatever. I love testosterone. I am just totally objecting to the Pennywise. And we going to jump right into my childhood trauma? Or are we going to?
We're going to talk about all of our childhood traumas, because this is, my friends, the first part in a 4-part series, because this is the only way to digest the amount of stuff that is coming your way. If you haven't already guessed, we are tackling the Clown Prince of Horror in Stephen King's It, but we are starting out with 1990s It. That is so iconic, that picture. I just remember going to the video store and seeing old Pennywise.
You don't even notice the hands.
No, you don't.
It was always the movie that, as a kid, I wanted to rent and was so scared, and it took a few years to muster up the courage to take it home. And I don't even know if we got through it.
I'm going to go first because I am old, as we can see, and I have vivid memories of this being on television here in Australia. It aired over 2 nights because it's a 2-night miniseries. Clocks it in just over 3 hours, so that's why we didn't try and tackle it all at once. But I remember there being ads on television, and I remember specific scenes from them being on TV. I didn't get to watch it when it was on TV, all of it, but because I was a little baby child. But I have very vivid memories of this happening, and then as it filtered down into the schoolyard, and everyone's like, "Have you seen it? Have you seen it? Oh my god, have you seen it?" I was like, "Yeah, I saw it." And I think anyone who is of the elder millennial age group definitely had a fear of shower drains for a hot minute.
I think it was more like the sewage, not sewage, like the stormwater drains is what I was terrified of, because I was already scared I could fall down one, but now there's clowns down there too, so it complicated matters for my young mind.
So, Katie, you're the wait. Oh, you guys are probably around the same. Katie, when did you first see this? You would have been this has been a home video thing for you.
VHS.
All my family members deny putting this on the TV at Grandma's house. But I swear to you, one of my family members put this on during a holiday, and I stumbled upon it, and this is where the trauma started. All family members deny this, every single one, but it happened, and I vividly
No one
remember
wants to
it
take
happening.
responsibility for the product that is Katie today.
No one will take responsibility for this. Not one.
No.
Not one will take responsibility for it. But I am traumatized by this movie. What about
our new friend, Mr. Legs? When did you first see this?
You may have heard stories of the notorious Cooter Brown, which is my mom. Old Cooter. She is not afraid of scary movies and not afraid to show kids what it's like to be scared. And after watching The Exorcist when I was probably about 5 or 6, this was a walk in the park. No problems at all.
We have very similar horror introductions, Kenny. That's
yeah.
Very funny.
I was scared of getting possessed while I was asleep, but scared of clowns while I was awake. So, terrible childhood. Terrible.
I traumatized a friend after watching The Exorcist. She couldn't sleep in her bedroom for a good 3 months.
Nice.
So I passed the trauma on for a different movie.
Paying it forward.
I paid it forward, yes.
Obviously, goes without saying, this comes as an adaptation of a massive Stephen King book. I tried to read when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I tried to read. It just gets real deep, and very
It's a bit much for a kid.
Yeah.
I read the book in 7th, 8th grade, I think.
Yeah.
I love Stephen King. I mean, I mean, child orgies are a bit much, but
I'm glad we kind of
like the book focuses more on like the effects of trauma.
You were doing good.
I was always an advanced reader, but
I got to I really think it was honestly the shower thing again. Like anything to do with the shower drains, I don't know why. I was like, nope, close the book, put it in. I still remember I was at my grandmother's house. I used to read in the bath. That was probably it. And I was like, oh, fuck this.
Oh,
in the drawer you go.
Tornado.
Yeah, I was like,
little
no
tornado.
girl.
I'm not going near it. My toes coming back.
See,
get out of the bath before you pull the plug. I don't want to die that way. I ain't going out that way.
My friends, they don't do it anymore. But they used to like to call me and leave me voice messages. Beep, beep, Katie. Beep, beep. And now they're going to watch this and they're going to start doing it. And fuck you guys.
Well, that's part of the joy. Okay, so we shall jump into, for want of a better term, the drain that is the dairy drama of 1990s. If you haven't seen this, I don't know what to tell you. It's like 30,
don't watch it.
Nearly 30-something years old. Go watch it.
No, don't go watch it. No spoilers. Just don't fucking watch it. And you know what? I have worn the most appropriate shirt for the occasion. It says, "Back off, you spooky bitch." Because
there you go.
That's exactly how I feel about this fucking clown. Okay? That's how I feel about this goddamn clown.
If you want to see 90s all-star acting, this is the movie to go to.
No,
it had such a cast.
Curry was robbed.
We're gonna talk about the cast and everything. Let's just get into the plot a little bit so the people can digest with us. So it is 1990. Simpler time in Derry, Maine, when little Laurie Ann Winterberger is riding her big wheel as the storm rolls in and encounters what has to be probably one of the, most culturally ingrained images of a clown that we will see before she's horribly murdered off screen. Now, that's a way to start a TV series. Like, let's be real. This was a TV miniseries, and in the first 10 minutes, a child has been horribly mutilated and murdered. It's like, okay,
Off screen.
But I think that's the power. That's the power of this one, especially for the people that saw it young, because it's left to your imagination as to what actually happened. We'll talk more about that.
Looks.
Yeah.
2 looks from Tim Curry. Hi.
Yeah.
You knew right then what was happening.
Exactly. And that's the start of the Tim Curry-ness of it all. I mean, this movie lives and dies by Tim Curry. I can't imagine anyone else being able to, in 2 really quick snapshots, being able to go, oh, fun clown, oh, terrifying clown.
And that's what is, that's really what's so horrifying. That's what's so horrifying about this character is I can't separate him. I cannot separate Pennywise from Tim Curry. And I think that's what horrifies me so much about it is what I can separate from in the new one. I can separate the characters. I can't do it with this man. I can't.
But I think, as I was saying, I think it's because of the time when we saw it
back then, and it worked. And it works so well with Tim's face, though. Like, he looks frightening. Tim Curry is that just plain blocked out face with the red nose.
Well, and Tim Curry is just so dynamic and charismatic. That man could do it without makeup.
Yeah.
Like he could do it with no makeup on and still be terrifying, honestly, I think.
So we are introduced to one of our protagonists, Mike, who is the town librarian, who has a little showdown with the police chief about the fact that 6 kids have been, missing or murdered, which heavily reflects the past when Mike discovers a photo that couldn't and shouldn't have been at the crime scene. The photo of one George Denborough, who died in 1960. Now, this is where we start to jump through time, and as we are introduced to our characters as their adult selves and their childhood selves, it's tricky. It's going to be tricky to keep up with. But what we'll do to talk now is to talk about our past as their 2 separate selves. So we do meet the adults first, but I want to talk about the kids first. So here is our child cast.
Oh, Jonathan Brandis.
Yeah, R.I.P. Jonathan Brandis. I think he is one of the
crush on him.
One of the standouts of this cast. But this kid cast is damn strong, like a damn strong child cast, especially for a TV movie, which is not, necessarily, known for their acting skills. Every one of those kids delivers, and I think that it would be a weaker film without them. Do we have a favorite out of the kids?
I mean,
Katie just said.
Yeah, I say Katie just said it.
But probably, I think it was Jonathan Brandis. I think he was one of the stronger performers out of the child cast, but no one did a bad job. They were all really good.
Yeah.
Seth Green played the perfect clown.
Yeah, I think Seth Green just has this knack of, jumping in these little cultural moments, and you're like, oh, Seth Green, oh, Seth Green, oh, Seth Green. He just he is a genre kid that just keeps popping up. You're like, he does seem like, watching it back this time, you're like, oh, he's a little bit older than the rest of these kids. Like, you can't help but notice that he's that little bit older, but that's okay.
I did forget Seth Green was in this, by the way.
Because until you see him and you're like, oh, that's there he is. It's
pre-Buffy, pre-Austin Powers.
Pre-everything. Post My Stepmom's an Alien, though. She's like, he was delivering. This kid's had a career.
Pre-Airborne.
Yeah, he's been a busy boy. But I think, as you guys said, Jonathan Brandis, I mean, like, what pretty child he was. He was just like, he was meant to be a movie star, that kid. Like, the camera loves him, but he can act his little patootie off. Because the first thing we see after an adult one is, you know, the scene with him and Georgie. And that's not a long scene, but it's a poignant scene because even though we know something's going to happen, there's a little bit of tension there. And even the way he says, be careful to his little brother, I was like, oh, that's really tragic and sad. But why are you such a good actor? I don't know. I can't deal with it.
Don't float your paper boat down the stream, George.
Oh, it's not okay.
You just knew that was going to be your last words.
Yeah. That's heavily implied in the book. Like, well, not heavily implied. They talk about it in the book, but it's just all the more tragic. You're like, oh, that's really sad. Okay, cool. And the little kid that played Georgie, he's cute. Like, what a kid to sacrifice to a horrid drain monster. That little kid, that poor little boy, playing with his
cute. They're always
playing with his boat, you know, and then
little Drake Bell. Let's sacrifice him to the monster.
It's like, yeah, well, anyway.
Did you notice in the remake that Georgie was super cute too?
Yeah, well, I think that you got to sacrifice the cutest kid to the first. But let's talk about Pennywise popping out of that drain.
Let's not.
Let's talk about it because this is our. Yeah, hello.
Do you have an image of that one, Steve?
No,
I don't, because I want people to use their brains, because I think a big part of this movie is the suspension of disbelief and the difference between your childhood experience in the world and your adult experience in the world, and that's really, I think, poignant here for a certain age group of people that can relate to the way that these kids lived, because they had to change it in that update. I don't think the new movies would have been as popular if it was still the 60s and the 90s as opposed to the 80s and the 2000s, because kids, one of the big conversations that we've had is a lot of people won't watch older movies because they're old. Because they're old. Can't relate.
Yeah. I mean,
too much character development. Slow burns.
You kind of talked me into this along with my son. Like, we're in this together.
You're welcome.
I mean, trauma bonding. Remember this. So when he pops up, like, does it still kind of make you go, oh?
Yeah, like there was a little bit of pee came out, just a little bit. At first when the movie starts and you hear that bam, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Like, that's when my heart sank. And then, hiya, Georgie.
Yeah.
God, I hate it so much. Like,
it
still bothers me.
I hate it so much that I love it.
I still hate it so much.
I took a deep breath when it happened. I was like, oh, here we go.
It just so much. It just bothers me so freaking much still. Like,
they float.
They float, Georgie.
You'll float too.
And when you're down here with me, you'll float too. And look,
powerful.
As an adult,
stuff.
As an adult, not terrifying, right? Looking at it, you go, okay, it's a shot of the guy. It's a shot of the guy with teeth makeup. We don't see anything happen to Georgie.
No, it's still bad.
But I still remember my childhood self going, oh my God, what's that? Like, going, like.
All right, maybe it's the trauma. Maybe it's like the extra element that I'm a mom now. But then I'm just like, oh, God, Georgie. Like, I think it bothered me even more now because, like, I'm just like, oh God, poor Georgie. Like, and now I'm thinking like, oh God, his mother, his poor mother. Like, I'm just like,
I think that's the point, Katie. When what I was saying before is, and we had this conversation with Jeff the other day on a live show. We are probably the last generation that went out in the morning. Parents didn't know where we were, and then we came home when the streetlights came up. You know, that's very much. This is the core of that. This is like 1960s, like kids having like latchkey kids, like living their lives, having whole separate lives from their parents, and I don't think
my
kids
parents
today
didn't
could
know
relate
about
to
any of
that.
the cool spots around town. They
Right,
didn't know about
like-
the culvert. They didn't know about the woods. They didn't know about all these spots. My
They
kids,
didn't know about the clown in the drain.
they didn't know about
Isn't-
that old man. They used to give me candy for money. They didn't know about him.
But isn't that the point? I think that's the point. Is that as children, you have, especially with children, friend group, like a really tight friend group like this, you have that kind of code of honor that you keep things secret. That what your secret hideout, like if someone tells you a secret, like that's the power and the strength of childhood, and that's a big motif in the book about the power of imagination, the power of childhood. But I can relate to this. I remember going away. We're gonna go build a fort in the bush all day. No worries. Yeah, cool. We'll come back and get some food, and then we'll go back again. But as soon as the street lights came on, it was time to go home. Like that, fuck, I'm gonna get in trouble. Gotta go. Whereas
I know
today's
that
kids couldn't
I used
relate.
to rustle up all the kids in the neighborhood, go down. There was an old ferry at the lagoon nearby that was like beach. So that was our clubhouse. And to be initiated, we had to go through the park that was there where all the zoo animals and there were these vines that you could swing on, but you weren't allowed to because you get hurt. So the park rangers would chase you. So that was your initiation, was to get chased by the park rangers and get away and not let your parents find out. And one chick got caught, ratted us all out. She never got to join the club.
I was going to make a joke about disappearing in the outback, but hey, you know what?
But this is, I think, kids of a certain age, or adult children of a certain age, can relate to that. Like we all had those experiences, whereas you couldn't let your kids do that today. Like imagine like Katie just said, imagine the anxiety of going, "Where's my child? Is my child having its arm ripped off by a horrid drain monster?"
Yeah, it's getting to the point now that I'm having my own mother guilt me about my 9-year-old not having a cell phone when I was firmly standing like he's not having a cell phone until he's 16, just like I did. But no, it's getting to the point where I'm like, kind of have to do it now. Apparently, if you're going to drop him off and leave him there, you got to give him a cell phone in case something happens. Apparently, you can't just leave him somewhere without a way of communicating anymore.
No.
Yeah. And
That's
if
not
there's like
proper
old man
parenting.
selling him candy, he needs to have mum on the line so you can like help him barter and transfer him the cash.
Well, apparently there are killer clowns in the sewer drains, and then there are men in masks with black balloons that put them in basements and all that. Like,
but see, when we reviewed the Black Phone, I said it gave me strong It vibes because it's the same thing. Back in the day, you could disappear. Kids could and did disappear for the day and then return. That's the big, there's the whole, it's 8 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Like, there's a reason why this formula works.
And then I said I wanted to play Naughty Boy with Ethan Hawke, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there. So we meet childhood Billy, but we also meet adult Billy. So here's our adult
Why
cast.
are you doing that to me? Come on.
Here's our adult cast. Now,
is peeking in
hey,
the back.
Jim Curry. Hi.
I love Jim
Photobomb
Curry.
them.
Just take it any chance. Any chance.
R.I.P. John Ritter. Ugh.
Look at the 90s, the 90s-ness of this. It's just so
You
the
couldn't have,
mustachios.
you could not have any movie without John Ritter in the 90s.
Who was playing
feel
the
like
lady? Who was
Beard.
Beverly, who played Beverly.
Yeah, who played Beverly?
Come on, Stevie, you know this. Her name is Annette O'Toole.
Don't get him
and
started, yeah.
She played Martha Kent on Smallville.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, she was very
Superman's mum.
She was Superman's mum. She was very prolific in the 80s and 90s. But John Boy Walton, like an American, staple as Bill. I think the start. What do we think about the start? I think I think they both managed to start up pretty well. It could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse. We've seen some
I think
next?
it's John Ritter next, right? Ben,
Yeah, Ben. Yeah. Ben Hanscom. Now
the stories get shorter and shorter as we meet them.
Yeah,
as of their importance.
Ben seems to be really long. It's like for some reason it's like, okay, the kid that played Ben has a fair amount of time as well, but
they had to let him get through his lines and he had to stutter.
No, we're talking Ben now. We're moving on to Haystack.
Oh, sorry.
The fat kid who's not really that fat, but that's okay. It was the 90s and the 60s.
He was 90s fat.
There was different fat. Okay, it was pH fat. But this is where we also meet our bully. What do you guys think of Henry Bowers?
Great bully. Great bully.
Great bully with, disposable cronies that don't really have any kind of personality, like in the real world.
I was going to say, it's very 90s bully, though. Like, he did, I guess, for the time, like, it was done...
60s bully, he was a greaser.
Yeah, but, like, filmed in the 90s. It was very much, he met expectations.
But a great portrayal as well.
I had a 4th grade bully that he was a cowboy, but it was close enough to the greaser stance that it's like, oh no, he's gonna cut me in the belly. I know it.
But and that's another really good segue because that idea of violence between children is not something that we really talk about either. I distinctly remember being scared of some older kids and not knowing what they were going to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Kids are violent as heck. I remember catching the bus home because we wanted to. We would always get picked up. My brother and I decided we were going to ride the bus with our friends and catch the bus home. And we would have to catch it with the high schooler kids from the private school. So they were mean. And I remember one day they threw us from the moving bus as it was turning a corner. It was my friend Kathy, myself, and my brother just rolling across the grass, and the bus kept going. It was like, oh well, we got thrown from a moving vehicle, and no one cared. So we beat those kids up next time we got on there. Oh yeah, there's a lot of head trauma here too.
It explains a lot.
We beat the crap out of those teenagers the next time we caught that bus. We weren't even waiting for them to say anything. We just walked up. I think my friend Kathy started the first blow. She just hit him over the head with the textbook, and it was on.
There you go. See? Childhood violence. Again, something we don't talk about and something that's not really reflected a lot in media. But this idea that, you have to defend your own and you have to defend yourself. I think we're so tied up in the idea that, very much The Simpsons. Won't somebody please think of the children? Like, they have to be protected at all costs. But kids used to be able to protect themselves. Like, you had to.
Well, clearly, no one even cared. The bus driver's like, meh, one less stop.
You either learn how to run or you learn how to fight, right? Like, that's how it goes. One of the two. But Ben is the new kid in town. He is, as I said, the token fat kid. And the token romantic amongst the group because he falls in love with one Beverly Marsh.
Beverly
Marsh.
I think Beverly was my favorite character. I think she was quite complex, and I really enjoyed her. And
there's a lot going on with Beverly, and I think
they all enjoyed her at one point.
Yes, in the book, they definitely all enjoyed her.
They sure did.
But I think he gets a little bit of short shrift in the TV movie, but I think Beverly is better serviced in the movies. I think she's given...
She sure is.
The theatrical movie, I think she's But
No, Beverly's better
but
than that.
the reality of that character, you know, like they couldn't do certain things on a TV movie in the 90s that you could do, you know.
They can murder the kid, but they can't have other adult concepts.
That Epstein.
But as much as look, as much as we're joking about it, we all went to school with kids that, you know, didn't have the best home life, that you know, went through certain things, and the way that it manifests itself in this movie is interesting, and like in the theatrical movies is probably more reality based. But
I think her storyline was definitely better played out in the newer movies than it was in the 90s film. I agree with you there. Sorry, all seriousness.
But I do think Annette O'Toole gives us, when she gets her phone call, because the most important thing that we've glossed over is they don't remember what's happened in Derry until Mike reaches out to remind them. Then everything comes flooding back. They have their flashbacks.
So why do they have this amnesia? Is it explained?
It's because they're not there. They're not. Yeah, they've moved away. They're not living in the town. They're not constantly exposed to whatever evil exists in Derry, which is going to be obviously
Nightmare Before Christmas. Or no, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street, yeah.
You gotta be scared.
Well, yeah, but I think that's obviously with the TV series Welcome to Derry, which is why we're kind of doing this, because we're hoping that by the end of this we'll have some more official news. It's filming; they're doing it now. It's going to explore more of the town's history, which we don't get in these adaptions. We get it a little bit in the movie, in the theatrical movie, but there are so many other stories in the Stephen King book that show that Pennywise is just a symptom of the evil that exists in that town. He pops up, but he's not the only face of evil.
So is Gary kind of like Sunnydale in Buffy? It's like there's some evil presence there, yeah. It's
a bigger story. It's a big story in the book. If you haven't read it, it's like universes and like the nature of evil, the nature of good, and the nature of humankind and how evil portrays itself. It's a big story, so I think that, you know, a TV series will work, and as a prequel to the movie. So we will see. But we get these little vignettes of their childhood experiences. Now, Ben's father was a pilot who got shot down in Korea.
Yeah.
Korea. Yep. Korea. And he sees him. Like, that's, I think, horrible for a child. Yeah. Like, and I love that
he
gradual.
Remembered him. Yeah.
Yeah. That gradual transformation into Pennywise. It's his dad, and then all of a sudden his dad has these big like pom-poms on him, then dad's holding a balloon. It's just like, oh, that is not okay. That's like,
yeah,
the idea that evil can get inside them as well and twist their memories of people that they love and stuff is scary as a child, even as an adult, to think that, you know, something can play with your mind and play with your memories that much. But we've also, this is where like every story kind of starts to fall in, because we meet childhood versions of adult characters. We meet, as we said, Beverly, whose dad is the janitor. So some people have no class, some people have janitors for parents. It's like, oh, those girls in the back of the head as they walk away.
Bro.
I know, little bitches. But Beverly is the janitor's daughter. She is physically abused in this.
He cares about her a lot, though. He worries a lot.
He worries a lot. But then they imply it a bit more in the second half that, you know, there's something else going on. But, you know, and saying it without saying it, because, you know, it was the 90s. But I think that the childhood actress and the adult actress for Beverly did brilliantly. I do love it when she like loses her shit as an adult and she's like, "You come near me again, I will kill you. I will kill you." I'm like, "Oh, bitch!" I wouldn't fuck with her. Like, Jesus Christ, Beverly, calm down. The power suit.
I'm a little.
It wasn't long. Less than 20 minutes after the Throes of Passion, too. So
yeah.
It's a little partial to Ms. Chastain, but whatever.
For this Beverly, I think she's well suited.
She's well suited.
I do have a soft spot for Eddie. Poor Eddie Kasprak, who just can't win.
I hate it when you stutter my name, Bill.
What a cute little kid. Let's look at him again. Look at that. It's like, oh no. Whoa. They're like straight. He's like a little straight talking gangster. He's like, don't do that. He don't like it when you do that. It's just like, oh, I
always feel safe with him around.
I know, and like Eddie's, we're supposed to have that little. Oh, he's like the cub of the group. I think we're supposed to protect the runt of the litter, and I think Eddie's very much that runt of the litter kid. Oh, his mother though, the adult Eddie's mother. Eddie, you're scaring me. It's just like, oh, she's got that pitch that makes me go, oh. So Eddie's an interesting character in this film. I think there's a lot not said about Eddie that again is implied that we should read between the lines a little bit about Eddie's adult life. Which
him and his limo driver.
Him and his limo driving
guy.
Yeah, and no wife, no girlfriend, etc., etc. in the 90s.
Really,
Will they explore that in the book or nah?
Yep. There's a lot more. Like you've got to think.
Yeah, I feel like I need to read the book.
500 plus
make
pages.
Everything makes sense.
Yeah, it's a long read, but it's a good read. But
I listen to the audiobook. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and most of them are around like 20 hours. This one was 40.
Yeah, she's a long one.
It's a big book.
The second time I went through it was an audiobook. I was like, I don't think I can physically do it again. So I was just like, I'll pop it in and just listen to my heart's content.
That's 2 full days of our life.
I know, but you don't listen to it all at once. You just do it in bits and pieces.
I sit on a bulldozer for 12 hours at a time, so
yeah, he's got to be
no problem for me. Knocked it out.
So we have this little gang forming now. I don't know. Did you guys have when you were growing up an area like the Barrens where you would hang? I mean, obviously Luke had a ferry. That's pretty cool. Like a crash ferry.
Decommissioned ferry.
Decommissioned ferry. That's pretty.
Yeah. That's very cool.
We had a bush. We had like the bush behind my friend's house that we would like make like a little shelter cubby house kind of thing. That's what we had. I didn't have it.
Yeah, we had woods, which I guess is basically the same as the Australian bush.
Well, we had all the woods as well because we were like where the ferry was part of the gardens, which is like a zoo as well. So there's like all wildlife, like plant life.
Wow.
And then the ferry that was decommissioned, there's now new ferries running now that the lagoon is full again because this was also during the drought of 1990, if you remember, Steve. Or 91 after the floods and all the water receded and there was no more. It was weird. But yeah, so that's what happened. I think that's why the ferry was decommissioned actually, because the floods had like smashed it into stuff and it was had it.
There you go. Katie,
you don't really need a ferry if you don't have water.
Get amongst it and have a secret kids like place or?
Sorry, my cat's desperate for attention. Everyone's like, hi, Loki.
Hi, Loki. Katie's pussy is at it again. So did you have a kids hideout or were you a good girl?
I don't think we had anything like that, like for younger kids, but for us delinquents, for teenagers, we had the quarry.
That's a different kind of hangout. It's a different kind of hangout, isn't it? But I can relate to this whole, let's do a project. Today we're going to build this, or today we're going to do that, and you would lose an entire day on this. Like, all right, you go get this from your house, I'll get this from my house. We'll find this, we'll build this, we'll do this. Like, I don't think kids do that anymore, right?
No.
No, but then kids probably don't like. I used to do weird stuff too, like, let's make the atmosphere /nightmare board game in the actual lounge room with actual tile pieces, and we'll just walk around as they're moving, playing pieces.
I built me and my brother built a functioning for a hot minute until we got in big trouble. Like little like lazy river thing in the back garden because we had all these tiles left over from when we were renovating the kitchen. So we dug it up and put the tiles underneath so the water would sit in there and put the hose in there and everything flowed around.
You got flogged for that.
Big trouble. Big trouble.
You got flogged.
No.
We also
these days.
we would roll, so we would make our own like carnival. And I remember we had the guinea pig cage, which was like this big solid wood thing that my stepfather had built. And it was solid and good and nice. And it was chicken mesh that was like keep the guinea pigs in. We would climb into this guinea pig cage with foam mattresses, roll them around ourselves, and then get someone to roll us down a cliff face in the fucking guinea pig.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of.
They're drawing. I don't know what game they were playing earlier. My son had some friends over, but they were drawing penises in some sort of game they were playing earlier. Penises and poops.
That's called being a boy. That's called.
Any game you play that has a pen and paper, you're gonna draw penises.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly what they said too. We're boys. What do you expect? I'm like.
All right, I have to ask a serious movie.
Did I say anything? I expected this.
A serious movie-based question. Whose bathroom scene is more intense, Eddie's or Beverly's?
Beverly's.
Eddie's.
I think it's really upsetting that Phil and Lil DeVille are down in the drain in Beverly's. From Rugrats.
Oh god!
Yeah, but wasn't there like all blood around her bathroom and stuff? You know,
yeah, her dad not noticing the blood was scary, but didn't that already happen to Bill? So
it happened to Bill when
it was to be expected. But Eddie's, it was just like what happened to him was probably worse than what happened to anyone else.
Because it
as
happened,
far as the kids go in their personal
Eddie's happened
experiences
in public. Like Eddie's happened
in public. He was
school.
naked.
Like he
saw the clown.
Yeah,
shit was changing. There was stuff that could physically hurt him. You know that hot water was probably hot.
Yeah, Eddie.
I think his was probably the most traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I think the blood thing is really cool as well. I think that whole the adults can't see it because they don't believe. Mm-hmm. is really cool. Like the blood thing was really cool, and like especially when Beverly's father touches her face and like it's like she's like that kid she earns her stripes in that scene. She's like traumed like no one's business, like as you would be when there's blood everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like that her scene makes me feel probably more sorry for her because she's already in a horrible situation, and now she's even in
doesn't need like blood and shit everywhere. Like
only she can see. Like that's psychological trauma. Yeah, the spider, and she has to clean it up. Like she has to clean it up because she's the only one that can see it. Like it's almost Macbethian that what happens to her. It's like.
Would it have attracted flies if she wouldn't have cleaned it up?
I don't know. Who knows? Like that's part of the drama of it all. But the interesting one, I do like everything is so like personal and visceral until we get to come on, Steve, you can do it. Richie's, because Richie's encounter with it is very different to everyone else's because Richie's the big showman. He's the joke. He's the wisecracker. He's very much I don't know, media based. I would guess. So for him to be frightened of the Wolfman and have the Wolfman alive in the basement was an interesting twist because. Everything else had been so personal. Like Eddie didn't want to shower with the other kids, so that's where it attacked him.
Mm-hmm.
And Beverly got attacked in her home. So did Billy. Like it's just interesting that that's where that happened for him.
who had that old theory about if there's a gun in the first scene, it's going to be used in the second scene?
It's very if the gun doesn't go off, yeah. If the gun doesn't go off, it's a bad movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So like them seeing the werewolf movie in the theaters, they had to use that somewhere.
I just think it's interesting that that's his fear. You know what I mean? That's the thing that scares him the
just
most.
His imagination, like he's why he's so fascinated by film and media.
Yeah, it's an interesting difference because we don't see for the last two, we don't see Mike's because Mike's in the movie, in the book is an epic scene. What Mike sees and the Mike's encounter is very intense. Like there's burning people and crows attacking him and all this kind of stuff. Like it, and that's
what actually happened. It's
yeah,
just like
what actually happened. Yeah,
yeah.
It's intense and it's a long part of the book too.
They couldn't show that in the movie.
They definitely couldn't show that, but they do show bits and pieces.
The regional one they showed here.
Yeah. Yeah, not down your way, Kenny. Oh dear, that could be a worry. And we don't see stands, and I think that's really important that we don't see what terrified Stan, because Stan is, I guess, Stan is the more adult of all of them. They're mature kids, but he's more in that adult world because he's all about responsibility. Like he wants to be an ornithologist. He likes order. He's kind of edging out of that childhood world where the rest of them are all firmly entrenched, even though they have, very adult things happening to them. He seems to be on the outside, especially in this one. He seems to be on the outside. We don't get a lot of Stan, which I think is interesting. We don't get a lot of Mike either, but yeah, it's a weird encounter that we don't get a lot of. It's explored more in the second movie, but we have the last member of the group, Mike Edlin, who is the town's librarian, who we met at the beginning. And Mike is
something's terribly wrong.
Yeah, terribly wrong in Derry. Terribly. I noticed that too, actually. So this war of the children kind of culminates in an epic rock fight, and it is an epic rock fight in the book as well. This is a big turning point for this group of kids and against Henry Bowers, where they actually stand up for themselves as a group, and they win. They win for the first time. They actually have a big win, but this is where Henry gets, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you all. I'm going to kill you all. Like
I blame Richie for that in the theater. Poured the coke right on him.
Right, exactly.
Upon rewatching that, I said, "Richie, you little scoundrel!
You little bastard!"
They were mad at Ben, but they let Bill and they let Eddie go until they were in the theaters, and he was just like, "Hey, boys, guess what? Soda pop all over your sweet leather jackets." I'd have kicked their ass too. I'm not mad at him.
I would kick their ass. But this rock fight, they all managed. I think they have every intention of killing Mike. Like they were gonna harm Ben, but there's a hard N word in there. There's a hard N word in there.
It's the 60s, baby. Yeah.
You gotta have a hard N word, and I have I reckon they would have killed that kid. He was lucky enough to get away, and the rest of the guys, the losers club, God love them. They saved him. They saved each other against the threat of Henry Bowers, only to realize that there is a bigger threat looming for all of them, and they hadn't been able to share that until this point either. They didn't want to believe what was happening to them in their individual lives was really happening until we look into that history book. And even though this is an old movie, that's one of my favorite scenes. Watching that photo come to life.
Oh, of him in the village and
and him backflipping through. And it's like
the dancing clown. That's where you really
Pennywise the dancing clown.
Pennywise the dancing clown.
I like that scene too, even though
It's cool.
I'm horrified.
But see, so my sister had this like hot air balloon that would suspend from the ceiling with a China clown in it that looked exactly like Tim Curry's It. And this scene, I would dream about it, and I would wake up, and because we were all on like a sleep out, so I could see the clown from my room, and I'm like, oh my god, like that thing is going to come alive. I don't know why ever my mother would have got that for her, because it looked terrifying, even if you didn't have the it connotations. It was just not nice.
You know, it was funny. I don't remember. It might have been a year or two ago. I came out for work one day. I get to my car, and I don't remember why I turned around, but I turned around and there was a red balloon at the sewer.
Of course there was. Someone's fucking with you.
No one was. That's the funny thing. No one was.
Did you go and investigate?
No, Katie would have went.
No, I did actually. I walked
over.
If
and
I
I
don't
lamb
find
to the
98
slaughter.
more red balloons, then I'm scared. If there's 99 red balloons, I'm good to go.
I honestly thought someone was messing with me, and I thought, it's not my birthday. It's not Halloween. It's not April
Did you
Fool's.
start playing 99 love balloons?
Like what's the occasion for someone to be messing with me? I ran through my head like, what is the occasion for someone to be messing with me on this? And I think someone just had I think someone just like had a birthday party and the balloon like blew away, and it was just so funny. Just think like that it just blew away and landed on the sewer.
Yeah.
It's just like what is my life with this? And just, yeah.
But this is where Pennywise steps forward and reveals his plan. I'm going to kill you all. I'll drive you crazy first, but I'm going to kill you all.
And you
have
Pennywise.
That's almost worse. I'm going to drive you crazy first, because I think like we come up on the scene where he says, "Go ahead, let go, be afraid. You all taste so much better when you're afraid." Like the idea that thing not only gets off on you being totally terrified, but will then like devour you because of it is something. It's so perverse. It's just like
he knows exactly how to make you terrified,
and he does,
all
and that's
the right
the thing.
things to all the right buttons to press.
What's worse, dying or being driven crazy and then killed? Like I can't think of like because that psychological warfare is gonna happen. They can't get help. This is when they realize that they need to take matters into their own hands. You know, they realize
what are those things, Boggarts and Harry Potter? If those things were deadly, yeah, just come out the wardrobe, turn into a clown.
What's worse, a killer clown or a transphobe author? What's worse?
Little from column A, little from column B.
Same thing, right?
Oh.
So this is where they decide that they have to take the fight to it. This is where they go, all right, if we're not going to go down without a literal fight. You know, they do their training. I love it. They do their training with the slingshot. They're ready to go. They know that they have to go. If they're going into this sewer, they can't come out unless the job is done. And so they do. And that's like this, even though it's a TV movie set, it's pretty like cool. Like going down into that whole
getting the earrings, you know, it's gotta be silver. They're putting so much belief into this.
Everything that they believe, everything they've seen, everything that they've experienced is gonna come into defeating this monster.
If you believe in it and you work hard enough,
you
can achieve it.
Just now, manifest your childhood traumas.
Henry and his group of goons see their opportunity and follow them into the sewer. This is where shit gets like real loose as Stan gets separated from the pack, and essentially he was going to get checked out by Henry. Someone wasn't coming out of this sewer. Let's be honest. It's out of this group. Someone wasn't coming out of the sewer, and that moment where the deadlights or whatever it is when it's not manifested as a clown comes up the tube and sucks Belch in and starts to I never noticed it until like the other night. Literally starts to eat him. You can hear it on the soundtrack. It's like chewing and wet and like.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Yeah.
Oh, if you go back and watch it, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then we get the
Yeah,
famous
yummy.
bright white hair scene when Henry Bowers sees the deadlights. He's heard it turns from black into bright white. Couldn't quite explain it. That's why that song always used to scare me, because I used to think of it.
There's Ray Power in the video.
Henry Bowers, it was a creepy video anyway. But the kids managed to reunite, and they experience it in its full, I guess, terrifying nature. It appears to them as Beverly's dad, as Georgie. It goes for all of their weak spots, and I think it's interesting again that it manages to get Stan. Stan's the weak link. He manages to be the one that is the most afraid of it, because he was the one that didn't believe in it enough to start with, and he's the one that gets separated from the group. He's the one that Pennywise is going to eat in front of them to scare the rest of them. So poor Stan, poor Stan.
One's not that strong.
Yeah, and we get two really awesome moments. We get, this is battery acid, you slime.
Oh,
that's cool.
Got such good makeup, man. Those effects.
I mean, I was about to say, as much as we, sometimes look at practical effects from some movies and go, oh my god, there's something cool about a melting clown face that you're not going to get in CGI, really.
No, there's nothing cool about a melting clown face.
Yeah, want the clown's face to melt, Katie? That means victory for you guys. And
Katie's trauma had checked her out well and truly before this point.
Beverly gets her shot.
That skeleton puppet come out.
Beverly gets her shot.
Take the
her
shot.
aim is true. Kill it, Bev, kill it. And she manages to shoot it, and it disappears down the drain. Now, in true leadership style, Bill's not going to let it go. He grabs that hand. Like, I can't say that I would do that. If this was happening to me, Bill wants that thing dead. He wants to walk around with its head.
If we've already gone to this point, you want to put that
I'd be
thing
scared
away.
that it was going to rip my fucking arm off. Like it did it to my brother.
He's thinking about Georgie, though. He's thinking about Georgie. He wants to rip its fucking arm off.
I know. It's just like, and then it turns into that weird thing.
Yeah, Steve. Why don't you care about Georgie?
I do care about Georgie. I just think my self-preservation instinct would kick in and be like, that's a tiny hole. It's a monster. I don't like the physics of the situation.
I like to see in the hole first.
But they managed to come out relatively unscathed. Mentally, I don't think so. But they managed to come out.
No big thing.
They come out, and Bill makes them promise that if it isn't dead, that they'll all come back to do the job.
Assemble the Avengers again.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Yeah, we'll just take Just take a hit of this battery acid, and we'll just come back and finish the job.
So as each and every member of the Losers Club is called back to Derry, the last adult member of the group we find is Stan. Now, as we said, Stan is the kid that wouldn't see it, and was the last. And there's a big thing made about it in this adaptation, and even in the book, that Stan was the last one to see it, because he was the oldest, the more mature of the group. He was the last child to see this monster. But it's interesting that whatever happened to Stan in this book, in this adaptation, and the fear of the situation down in the sewer, ultimately made him realize that he couldn't go back. And this is a pretty intense scene, again, for a TV movie in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
Stan takes himself out in the bathtub with a razor blade not before writing it on the wall in blood. Now, I have a question for you guys. Do you think Stan saw it and that's why? Or is it the memory?
Well, it likes bathrooms.
Memory.
So
No, it's the memory. It's the trauma.
Memory.
But we don't.
I think
But we
it's
also
the
don't
memory.
see. We also don't see him do it.
Many a times I've ran a warm bath and looked for the razor blades, couldn't find them. But if I'd have had that memory just sparked, I'd have looked a little bit
Kenny,
harder.
is this a cry for help?
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well,
I think that it's interesting that we see again what we don't see about Stan's encounter is reflected in his adult life as well. Like everyone else is having these flashbacks, and we see the way that they deal with it. Stan's way to deal with it is to take himself out, but as we're going to see in the second part, these adult characters start to be able to see it again. Because Stan's experience was so different, did he encounter it as an adult in that bathroom? It's something we're never going to know, but it's an interesting way to think about it.
Do we know in the book?
Well, the book differs slightly, so yeah, I'm not going to spoil the book.
Okay.
I don't think he
I'm
was getting ready to take a bath before he got that phone call.
Yeah.
So the whole reason, I think he was getting in the tub. Once he got that phone call and the memories came over him, he was getting in the bath with the intention to not get back out of that bath.
well, think about the remake. When he got the call, he was planning a vacation with his wife. So it's totally different.
Well, they were this is the really interesting thing about this one is they were talking about having children. The last conversation he has with his wife in this adaptation is they were talking about having children. That phone call happens. He remembers his childhood trauma and then takes himself out. That's some deep shit, yo. That's some deep shit.
I'm going to say this for everyone. Children are traumatic. Sorry, Grayson.
Look, the rest y'all are parents, so I believe you.
That guy was pretty big at the time, wasn't he? The guy that played Stan.
And I think that's the Drew Barrymore casting of it all. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's having these prominent 80s, 90s actors in these adult parts. You think they're going to be there and part of the cast, but to have him, tap out is very interesting. That's where we end our first installment of the It story. Now, we should give it what? Out of 5, 7 little boy arms holding paper boats. Luke, how are you going to go?
What a horrible image to conjure. Look, let's be real. It was something of its time. It was a TV movie, but it was so well cast, and the story is really good. So even though it's changed for TV, there's omissions that we've all touched on. I still would give it probably 4 arms out of 5, and I prefer the kids part more so than the later, if I can say that. You're muted.
Do you think it's because it's a little bit more? I don't know. There's the idea of magic existing in the book is very prevalent in the book. Do you think that's because there was more opportunity in the childhood part, or it's just the actors' performances, the fact, or that we got to see them together as much? I think might be part of it as well.
Well, I just think there was something that's a little bit more vibrant. I think maybe I like the throwback to the 60s. It was just it felt different too. They obviously shot these in 2 separate units, and you can definitely feel the change. It's not a bad thing, but I just preferred the younger cast more.
All right, Katie.
I decline.
You have to. You're on the panel. You got to do it. You got to rate it.
I decline.
You got it.
Katie, I'm going to put you on Georgie's face in the opening credits if you don't answer.
I'm traumatized. I decline.
How many out of 5?
Just give us a thought. Give us your thoughts on this first part.
This movie has fucked me up for the past how many years now. I still get viscerally upset watching this movie. I can't give a great rating because I get upset watching this movie. Isn't
that the mark of good cinema though? It moves you in certain ways?
Maybe. I can't give a really great rating or a bad rating because here's my take, okay? I don't want to say it's bad because it's upsetting to me, but I don't want to say it's good because it's upsetting to me. So here's my take on it. I think that Tim Curry did such an amazing job playing this role of this entity that was so convincing that I cannot separate this man from this being. I think the kids were very committed to this role of these characters that were going through trauma themselves. I think the adults took on these roles of these humans that experienced such childhood trauma and just threw themselves into such a deep story, which, by the way, Stephen King wrote on coke. How do you write such a complicated story coked out of your mind?
It does make sense why it's so long. Why it's so long, though, doesn't it?
It makes sense why it's so long. It makes sense why it's so twisted. But Jesus Christ, Stephen King, how do you come up with this shit coked out? So, long story short, I don't think I could give an honest rating because I'm so messed up by this movie. So if you want me to put a number on it, 3 out of 5, I guess. But I don't think it's fair because I hate this movie because I'm so traumatized by it. However,
so she's saying it's better than 3 out of 5.
Watching it as an adult,
I'm not saying it's better than 3 out of 5. I'm saying I don't think I can give a fair rating because I'm so scared of this movie, but I'm not saying it's good because I'm scared of it. I'm saying I don't think I can give it a fair shake because I'm so scared of it, but I'm saying the actors are amazing. Stephen King is amazing. Tim Curry was incredible. That's what I'm saying.
We'll touch base with you at the end of this experience. I want to examine that a bit more. The wonderful Mr. Kenny Legs, talk to me about your rating of this first installment.
Well, like I said, this movie, beside The Exorcist, probably affected me more than any other movie. And for that to be a TV movie to do that, phenomenal. I had no idea who Tim Curry was. I've always liked comedy as probably one of my highest things. So for someone to take a clown, which should be the height of comedy, and turn it into something that just scares the holy bejesus out of me, bravo, bravo. 10 ripped off arms out of 5.
Oh, Steve, you're muted again, love.
Getting a double bugger there from Kenny. That's lovely. But I think that I've got to agree. I do kind of agree with Katie. I have strong visceral memories of seeing this the first time. But I can extract myself from that and go, okay, cool. Why? And that makes it interesting for me to examine the why and the what for, because I was a film studies student. That's what we do. I think, as I said, the kid cast in this are so strong. They're so amazing. And if anything, I wanted more of them with Tim Curry. I think that the dynamic between all of them is so good. We're kind of just getting to meet this adult cast and we haven't seen them together yet. So it's hard to really judge at this point, what's successful. I think because of how close, generationally I was to the kids of that age, you obviously gravitate towards the kids and go, okay, I've had something like that experience. And it's like when you the first time you see something. So I remember the first Halloween movie I saw wasn't the original Halloween. It was Halloween 4, where Michael was after a child that was close to my age. You know, like, I think it's same with Kenny. Like, the first real proper capital H horror movie I saw was The Exorcist, when I was being babysat at my sister's house, and she put it on at 3 a.m. and went to bed. She goes, watch this. Like, when you see something that you can put your childhood self into it and you see it, I think it definitely affects you more. And I have really strong affection for this movie. Obviously, there are weaker parts to it, and I think those weaker parts are to come, sadly. But there's some interesting directorial choices too, yes, and photography choices. But I can't really fault this. It's one of those ones that's near and dear to my heart, so it gets 5 little Georgie arms from me. Now, we are going to tackle this, as I said, in chunks, because we have literally done the first introduction and we're over an hour long. So we are going to tackle Night 2 on a second part, as they say in Scream 2, the sequel discussion to be continued. So you never know, we might have a new face or two pop up in the next review. But we hope that you have enjoyed it. Talk to us about your favorite parts, or the parts that have ingrained themselves in your brain from Stephen King's It 1990. And then we'll be back in Derry to find it all out again. Thank you for joining us, my lucky 4. I was going to try and have 7 people, but I was like, that's a lot of people on a review. So
We'll
lucky
be
4.
well over an hour. That one.
There we go. We're lucky 7.
Club.
We'll be like, yeah, we are the Losers Club. So come be part of our club next time we talk about it. Until then,
beep, beep.
Stay away from the drains.